Derbyites, we're here to talk about the season finale of Outlander Season 2, Dragonfly in Amber. It was a really good one. We've got lots to talk about. I'm here with Amanda Spears, Ted Stevenson, and our celebrity guest, Tom O'Neill. We're going to you first.
Your boss, that's why I'm a celebrity.
Our
That's
boss,
hilarious. I'm
our
no
boss, Tom
celebrity.
O'Neill. Well, Tom, you are the original Outlander, unabashed groupie fan. You were the first one to say to all of us, you need to watch this show. It's incredible. You, as usual, were right. And I want to go to you first. Tell us, what did you think about this season finale?
Well, I will confess that when I saw it before you guys, because we all had access to the press site and were able to watch it ahead of time, I just lost my crackers, and I'm sending you guys all emails. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Oh, my God. And it just is. It is the greatest moment of a great show because it is fearlessly going over the top with romantic abandon. It's doing these. It's breaking all its old rules. It starts with taking you into the Avengers from 1968 with Steed and Mrs. Peel. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when that was a new show. So it had the smarts to do something like that and then pull back and all of a sudden have all these characters we've never known before at this party, and it sets up a new reality, and then here comes Claire with the Jackie O hairdo. I mean, that was so cool. And it was just, the whole thing was magical. And I was breathless. Even up to the end, I thought that they handled the whole thing of Jamie, putting her back into the stones, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and you guys pipe in.
I don't think you could possibly get a better summation of your love for this episode, because when I received your email, I'm not gonna all the curse words aside, it was just like, okay. I remember I was like, okay, I need to make time tonight. We're going to watch this thing because I didn't even know it was on the site yet, and yeah, you're right. It was a pretty amazing episode. Amanda, what did you think? Tell us what your initial reaction from watching this episode.
I was in tears. I'm not gonna pretend I wasn't. Usually these things don't get me to start bawling, but yeah, it hit a chord with me, and I was just blown away. I've been waiting all season for Sam to have his big episode, because we've seen Faith and Claire in Katrina's episode. We had seen Tobias really have a great episode, and we finally got the perfect episode out of Sam Heughan with just him walking her to those rocks and saying goodbye. Yeah. I'm not going to cry now. I'm not going to cry now. I want to be the one woman in these things that don't cry. So tapping out here. I'm going to be the only woman that doesn't cry
as well. Okay.
I thought it was definitely the most exciting episode of the season, and what made me love the show in the first place was that it was about time travel, because I love sci-fi, and this was all about that. And I just love that so often when I was watching it, I felt like I was seeing like a Broadway show, and you see the stars come out. Like when you hear that, you hear Galis talking in that auditorium. Like before you see her, you're like, wait, we're in 1968. And then you see her, I was just like, yeah! And then like, at time after time, I was just rooting and rooting. It was so much fun, and the daughter is such a little whippersnapper, and she's such a great combination of both of them, and I just love the through line of fate in it all, and how they're all kind of connected to their ancestors, and I thought it was just so brilliant and so much fun.
Yeah, you're totally right. I love the sci-fi aspect, and sometimes I will admit that I would say, as a newer viewer to this show, I wish there was more traveling back and forth, because I love that. That's what drew me to the show. So it's not just Scotland porn. Like, I wanted more about going back and forth, and this episode had everything. It had the 60s. It had Scotland. It talked about what happened at Culloden. It had the people in the 60s talking about Fort William and Lullybrook, and it just was the perfect mix of what we want to see, someone like myself wants to see from this show. And I just loved Sam and Katrina in this episode. They once again proved that they have really inhabited these characters so perfectly, but they are really, really good actors, like really good. They really sold it sold it for me. And
And the casting
yeah,
of their daughter, Brianna, was perfect.
yeah,
That had to be a hard search to find the perfect actress to be a cross between the two of them. Not only looks wise, but just the personality. And she managed to do it perfectly. And so we're probably hopefully going to see more of her next year or next
Yeah,
season.
that's what I loved about this finale. It was like I feel like this is what you do with a finale. Like it ends on such a note where you're like, oh my God, there's so many possibilities here. Like the daughter knows about time travel, and they all know about it now, and they're very curious. So it makes me think like, where can this go now? Like there's just so many more levels. It's great.
And what I really loved about it too, and thanks for bringing this up, Ted, because we're all responding to your observation that this was about time travel, and like Rob, all of a sudden, yeah, this is what we got. And let me take that one more step. This was how great they mined that topic. Going back to last season, to the witch trial, I'm wondering when are they going to explain that woman with the smallpox injection on her arm, and how she kind of saves Claire there, and Claire looks at her and says, "Oh my God, there's another woman from the future here." It was one of the great moments that you really had to pay attention to understand the context of it. But wait a minute, where does this woman come from? What is all this? So they not only explain that and bring this woman back, but they take it to this other, all great melodrama has to be fearlessly go over the top, right? So they take it to this other level and add human sacrifice to it. That was so cool. So that they have to build up to the final stones moment, right, in this finale. So what do? Throw a bonfire in front of the stones, have a woman throw her husband into the bonfire. I mean, theatrically, how the story was set up was fantastic. Just the imagining of this. I mean, how they all sat down, put all the pieces together of this, and then in front of that stone that is the focal point of this romance, of this time travel story and the rest of it, Jamie and Claire get there, and they did a very dangerous thing in terms of storytelling. In other words, and how to handle it just right. All of a sudden, the two of them, as they're about to say goodbye, start banging each other. And we see an overt sex scene. And you know what? It worked. It worked beautifully, and it was really quick. I mean, Sam got Jamie dispatched himself with record time. Good soldier that he is.
Well, he already knew she was pregnant, so.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
He just had to perform quick.
Great stuff like that, right?
Oh gosh.
Yeah. I just didn't know what to, like. First of all, when they're at the Stones, Jamie is the way that he's just looking at Claire and kind of gnawing at her face, and that he just loves her so much. And I imagine a lot of the viewers, especially a lot of the women who love this show, would have just been so enamored by him even more, if that's even possible. Then they consummate, if you want to put it that way, and then she's off to go to the Stones, and I was like on the edge of my seat, like, okay, what's going to happen now? And then it faded to black in the credits, and I was like, no, we have another year to go now until we have to work out what's going to happen, and I'm not going to read the books. I want to watch this show as a show viewer. And so I'm wondering if the rest of you were screaming at your TVs as well.
Oh yeah, I think what I've said this before, but I think the chemistry between them is just undeniable, and it's some of the best that's on TV. And like when you see her go back to all these old places that they had been, you really feel like the heartbreak. Like they feel like a real life couple to me almost, just because it's so natural. They're so good at it.
And her just sitting at the rocks and talking about her daughter.
Yeah.
She was really great. And I thought the episode, it was surprising to me. They didn't, and I went back and triple checked the list I sent you guys to make sure they didn't submit this for writing. They didn't submit it for directing. It's weird, especially when you consider they submitted 7 episodes for writing, which is way too many to submit.
Yeah.
But
I know, that is surprising, because this one, I feel like the way they assembled it and the way everything was lined up, which is also the editing, was really tough. I mean, a lot happened, but the way they put it all together was so seamless, and one thing went into the next so well.
Yeah, they didn't submit it for editing either.
Well, they couldn't, though, Amanda, if you think about it, because we're recording this now on Friday before the end of it. There was only 2 or 3 more days of Emmy voting going on. We have seen the episode. We're talking about it actually in advance of it actually airing. The Emmy voters will not have, they would only have a day or two to have seen it. So in other words, strategically speaking, they had to do this, I think.
Yeah, I guess so.
Makes sense.
But let me finish the thought that Ted had mentioned earlier too, and that is one of our great pundits at Gold Derby, Lynette Rice of Entertainment Weekly, is a big Outlander nut like we are, right? And so I was asking, she kept saying, wait till you see the finale, Tom. It's just so great. What a payoff. They just go over the top. It delivers. And she's got me all excited. I'm like, oh, my God, I can't wait to see this, right? And I said, well, what about it is, before I see it, because I haven't seen it at this point, what about it is so great? And she said, as a mature woman in her late 40s, I think she is, or mid-40s, she said, it's all about the transformation of Jamie. She said, he becomes the king of men. And I'm giving you her perspective. And she said, here's this wonderful actor, Sam Heughan, who has been regarded as beefcake, who's not been given the credit he deserves as an actor of carrying this role. The role looks like just, the classic white knight kind of character. But we see in this finale his character emerge, the depths of it. We see him accept the fate that he has to take her back to the future and send her there, and he does it with such finesse and understanding and caring and love. The whole thing, it was, as much as it was about her inner journey, because Claire doesn't have a lot of lines in this episode. She's just feeling everything so deeply. We feel it with her. He has, his is the dynamic role where we really see him king of men. I just love that. I think that's spot on.
Yeah, it is.
I love that.
It was heartbreaking, and it's a shame that there is that slap the stud theory as far as why someone like him.
Well, he didn't get remember, he's the only cast
nominated.
member who didn't get nominated at the Golden Globes, right? Tobias got nominated. Katrina did. So there's right there.
That's so weird. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. There is
Especially
a bias
at the
towards.
Globes.
I know, especially for the Globes, but there is a bias towards, for some reason, really good-looking young men who are, brilliant actors, and yet they just don't seem to get the credit. And I guess a lot of voters maybe feel envious for them. I don't know, but the slap the stud theory is actually real, and this is a very good example of that.
We just saw Leo DiCaprio at the Oscars.
Yeah.
Look how long it took him to win.
Look how long it took him to win a bloody Oscar. But I got to just I want to say something, because I'm going to admit something that I really have no idea what's happening in this story going forward, and that's part of the allure for me. I just want to watch the show as a viewer without reading the books, and I get criticized a lot online about this. People say you should read the books, and I always respond and say I don't want to read the books. I just want to watch the show. And I honestly thought that Jamie was going to die at Culloden, and I didn't know how they were going to bring that character back, and I thought Claire would have to go back in time, earlier. And I was just, trying to work it out, and obviously Jamie doesn't die, and therefore.
But how does
Claire
that?
does.
I didn't understand that in the finale. What did I miss? All of a sudden, he's destined to die. Didn't she see Claire at some earlier point in the story, some document or something that said he is going to die? This makes Ted. You're on top of all these things, right? What happened there at the finale? I don't understand it. How can he possibly still be alive?
I think she always just kind of assumed it, right?
Yeah, because that was the arrangement she made with Tobias' other character's name. I can't remember it all of a sudden. That he would stop looking for it, but he didn't stop researching it, and so his daughter found it in their correspondence, basically. That he had somehow, and I'm sure they'll probably give us a good flashback next year of how he slipped out of this jail to survive.
Yeah, and I remember in the first episode of this season, right, she is frantically searching through the books because she can't find anything. And then in this one, finally, they start finding the documents, that say, oh, he did exist, in fact. And I also, this reminds me, I loved how on that document that they found with her name on it, that there happened to be a blot that fell on the name. I thought that was such an interesting. It was cool, that she was a Fraser, but part of her was not in a way. She was a Randall Fraser. I thought it was a very interesting
Yeah.
comment or.
It's the fact that somebody thought of that, and then later on, after we see the document to see the teardrop fall, it was just those little touches are so great.
Yeah, those details. They're really good at the little details.
The Dragonfly and Amber that he
yeah,
gave right before she
brilliant.
left.
And again, I mentioned Scotland porn, and I don't mean to be sarcastic, but there's a scene where Roger and Brianna are in a car and they're driving out to be together, I guess, to get to know each other. Do you remember that scene where there's like a river that goes around the car with the mountains in the back? It was like I wanted to take a screenshot of that and put it on my phone. It was the most beautiful scenery that I've ever seen. It makes me want to get on a plane and get over to Scotland immediately. That's one of the great things about the show is just you could just watch it without any sound and just enjoy the scenery. It's incredible the way they shoot this show. I just thought I'd mention that.
One of the best trips I've ever had, by the way, I've traveled the world, and one of the best trips I ever had was going through Scotland with a friend of mine, who I mentioned to you guys is a pothead, and she brought, I don't know how she got pot over there, but what we did was, and I recommend this trip to everyone, and is ScotRail has a beautiful loop around the edge of Scotland. So you just buy, like, it's the equivalent of a Eurail pass, right? So you just get the ScotRail pass, and you don't have to worry about cars or any of this stuff. And you just get on and off with the little towns that you want to. And it's just, you can keep it unstructured, stay at the little pubs, little rooms over the pubs and play. It was such a great way to experience Scotland. And then what we did was, the final line of the theme song, over the sea to Skye. Skye is an island, Skye to the west of Scotland, and it's giant. It almost takes up half of the equivalent coast. And it's a very romantic place in the mythology and the whole consciousness of Scotland. And so you can't take the train there, of course, it's an island. So what we did is we then took the ferry ride over there and then rented a car and then went along the thing. But these landscapes that we see in Scotland are still unspoiled to a large degree, like that scene you're recalling there, Rob. And I recommend the trip wholeheartedly, and just to do it unstructured and wander around, it's just magical.
It is. It looks amazing. And another thing I thought I'd raise while I have you all hostage is that we always talk about the costumes, and okay, maybe we go a little too far with the costumes, but this season has tackled Paris, and it obviously tackled Highland culture, and then we got to see the 60s as well. There was a lot of really interesting costume work in this particular episode as well, and once again, there isn't a show on television at all better than Outlander in terms of the creativity that it's exhibiting in its costumes and even in its production design. It really is the leader, even over Game of Thrones, and I'm just putting that out there.
And Ted just spoke to Terry, the costumer, right?
Yeah, and you can really tell, like, she always mentioned that she is very keen on being authentic, and you can really tell, like, the attention to detail. And she said that, like, it just bugs her when something doesn't feel like it is actually from the period. And it's a real testament to her work, because they do a great job, and you never once, you're just so immersed in it. It's really incredible.
She made 10,000 costumes for this particular season. 10,000, imagine that. And she has a whole army of people working on it. They could have, bought a lot of costumes and gone to the rental stores like most. King's Speech, they won costumes, I believe, at the Oscars, but they didn't make any costumes. They just rented everything and then returned them after the filming. Outlander, really, the devotion to duty that they have there is really astounding, and it's stars, and it's all the producing companies behind it making this enormous investment that, quite frankly, they didn't know at the start that this thing was going to be the hit that it was. They made these financial commitments up front. Now it's this big international sensation, but they were determined to get it right from the very beginning.
Yeah, they certainly
by
did.
the way, let's explain something now about what happens next on Outlander. I haven't read the books either, Rob, and Katrina is out there. And we can't say spoilers here because Katrina's telling the press, everybody, basically what happens next season.
Oh, really? Okay.
And she's just saying this. She's saying that in effect, we're not going back to Scotland. We're not going back to Culloden if you think what the end of this season meant is that, oh, she's going to go into that stone and she's going to save Jamie and they're going to go off and live happily ever after. From what Katrina is saying publicly now, so I'm not spoiling anything. She's already spoiled it, and anybody watching this video who's an Outlander nut knows this already. She's saying, and it's some fascinating thing where the next season, she doesn't give many details, but she said the next season they're going to be in a different time place, different time zone. In other words, so she's going to go in there thinking she's going back to Culloden, and she's going to come out in some other time span, and she's going to meet a different form of Jamie who's not going to know her, and they're going to fall in love all over again. This is going to be, those of us who love time travel, what they're going to do is completely, pull back from this story, this romance, and do it again in a completely different context. And she's going to have the foreknowledge of the past, of course, having loved him and having met him, and he's not going to have this. So they're setting up, I don't know what time zone or what place they're going to be in, but it's they're about to take another bold chance with the story of this.
So are they going with the idea that because she came back, it kind of is something that didn't happen for him, or is it something that he just forgets because it was traumatic?
I thought what it meant because I heard this before I saw the finale. I thought what it meant was, all right, Jamie dies at Culloden, so therefore, what do they have? They have to kind of reinvent him or bring him back, right? But so therefore, they have to bring back an equivalent of his character. But apparently that's not it, because the finale leads us to believe that maybe he didn't die there. I don't know.
It'll be interesting because, that was my question when I saw the finale, was if she goes back and touches those rocks, how does she know she'll end up in the equivalent time space of Jamie? How do we know he wouldn't be an infant and she
right.
back in time?
And apparently that's going to be the plot complication. She's going to want to go. Will the daughter want to go with her? We don't know. Well, she said, "Mom, I'm going with you." I mean, how cool would that be? And Roger goes with them, and the three of them go into the stones. We don't know.
But doesn't she know that, when she went through those stones, she came back, she spent the same amount of time in Scotland that she was away in, in 1700s, that she was away in the 1940s. So does that mean that, time moves linearly? I mean, I don't think she ever really says anything about that, but, that would make sense with what you're saying if, it's been, 20 years, and...
The other time traveler woman left in 1968, and then they crossed paths at the same time, and then she, the years advanced, and here she is still in 1968, and she can't stop her.
Yeah, like the regular her. Yeah.
We're trying to make logic out of stuff.
I know, it's like watching
but what they want to do with the story, Ron Moore has said to me, the creator, is that every year and Katrina has said, every year they want it to be a different thing. I was surprised they went back to Scotland on this one. I thought they were going to stay in France the whole time, because that was the whole setup, was this journey to France and blah, blah, blah. But then they ended up back there. So I kept thinking, well, is that where we're going to keep going back to in the future? But apparently not. We're about to have a whole new, different adventure.
Yeah. And I guess if they follow the books, we might be seeing a bit more of America, because apparently a lot of
that's where she's going to go next. She said that as America. Right.
So that's fascinating. I wonder if Ron Moore and the team are going to divert much from Diana's books, because we do hear a lot, if you read the books, you would know this and that. And I wonder then maybe if they will diverge, because other great shows based on other great novels like Game of Thrones have diverted from the course of the books anyway. So maybe we might do that here as well, which would be great.
They have actually addressed that topic in the last few weeks. Both Katrina and Ron have, and Diana, and Diana has said, because they let her write an episode this year, remember?
Yeah.
Was it the Hail Mary episode or the one before?
Vengeance is Mine, the one before.
Vengeance is Mine, yeah.
And it was quite good. So she's now on board with this fact that, we don't have to stick by the books. We can do it, she said, I'm rediscovering the story and all the different subplots and the characters, that she's giving them permission, and since she's now part of the writing team, saying, all right, let's just mix it up, change it. It's a completely different, and I love that. So even, those of you out there who know the books, you can't have any smug confidence that you know where this show is going, because she's on board too to say, no. It's a white page. We're going to fill it up however we want.
And I think that's one of the smart things about the adaptations of these books for both series is that sometimes it's easier just to have characters that are already established take on different parts than just keep bringing in new and new, more and more characters, because that's, sometimes makes it hard to keep up with what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it looks like we're done for Outlander Season 2, everybody. Thank you very much.
I want to get one last thing in here, Rob, all right? And that
please.
is, we are not just special Outlander nuts here at Gold Derby. We are, how can I say this? Because I just want to brag. I was so touched by the fact that when we had a party a couple weeks ago for just Emmy season, we had a wonderful Emmy season at Gold Derby. We're now part of the Penske Corporation, which also owns Variety and Women's Wear Daily, and we were acquired last summer, so now we're like an official part of the Hollywood scene, and this was our first big party, and we had a lot of celebrities show up a couple weeks ago when we did this at the Hollywood Roosevelt, the site of the very first Oscar ceremony, and we invited everybody, but guess who came? Katrina and Sam and Ron all came to the Gold Derby Emmy party, and we were thrilled to have them. I don't know where that rat Tobias was. But anyway, I think he was filming Game of Thrones. But anyway, the fact that they came, and what was so cute, I want to just tell this story, they didn't just, like a lot of celebrities do, arrive, have their pictures taken on the red carpet by the paparazzi, and grab a drink, move through the room and leave. No, Sam and Katrina and Ron took a booth in the back of the room, because we took over this section of the Roosevelt up on the second floor that has a bowling alley. It was really quite wild. Yeah. And they sat down there and just dug in and had a wonderful time with the whole gang. And I was really impressed by that they were comfortable enough and appreciative enough of all of our love and respect for the show that they really enjoyed the party with us. So thank you guys, very much.
Absolutely. And hopefully we might have one more chat later this year, in a couple of months or whenever. If Outlander does well at the Emmys, we'll reconvene and talk about that. But otherwise, we're done for Season 2, and we'll be back for Season 3. It's a long wait, everybody, so just hold on to your hats. There's a lot to look forward to. Thanks, guys, very much for joining me in all of these chats this season, and see you soon.